The Grandview Vikings are the NAIA football national champions for 2024. Congratulations to Coach Joe Woodley and the Vikings for a fantastic victory, a fantastic season, undefeated season, by the way, and a 35-7 victory over last year's champions, the Kaiser Seahawks. Good evening. Welcome to Midwest Sports Net. Glad that you've stopped by tonight. Let us know, please, in the comments section or in the chat, if you will, where you're watching tonight. We would appreciate that. We are not going to talk too long tonight. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I try not to sound like I'm not doing well, but, sometimes the voice betrays you a little bit. But we can't not talk tonight because it's the last top 5 performance. So we have to talk about what went on the field in Durham, North Carolina. 2 undefeated teams met for a national championship, and Grandview came away with the victory in that one. Both teams had more than 400 yards of total offense. One of the key stats, or one of those bellwether stats, if you will, was Kaiser not being able to convert on third down. Now, picked up some fourth downs later on, specifically one drive near the end where they converted on fourth down 3 times in the same possession. However, third down, 1 for 13 on the day. There was a bit of a struggle there, and the Grandview offensive line really made a difference as well. Hi, Jana. Thanks for watching tonight. I know that you all were disappointed with the outcome from Saturday's game, but I hope that you all had a safe trip back home and that everyone's all right with you all, and you get ready to for Christmas now, take a break, and then get things started again for another season following that. Both teams, they'd been impressive all year long. And our pick here on Midwest Sports Net was Grandview 31, Kaiser 21. Picked a 10-point game, thought it would be a little bit, at least a double-digit spread in there. Did not expect a 28-point spread by any stretch of the imagination. And it does, bring up the idea, did you spend too much last weekend? I know there can be a bit of a carryover. I realize that, there's a full 6 days in between, 6 days plus sometime, in between one game to the next if you're playing on Saturday, week in and week out. However, it's you can spend a lot on the field. You can spend a lot on the court. You can spend a lot from one game to the next. And it did look a little bit like maybe Kaiser had spent everything the week before. Excuse me. And I apologize. We'll get through it. Scram, glad you're here again tonight. Had to go visit Florida, thaw out after that game. Yeah, it probably felt like what it felt like here. We were in the 30s and 40s. Sun was shining, though, here in southeastern Oklahoma, and I know that's what it felt like there, but still the temperature was a little bit colder. I think it affected games all across the country, except for, like when North Dakota State and South Dakota State are playing each other. They don't care about that. But you bring a team up from way south Florida, it's going to make it a little bit of a difference too. But I think the biggest thing on the game, and we'll get to the top 5 here pretty quickly, my biggest takeaway was just how dominant that Grandview was in the trenches. Excuse me. I said we'd get through tonight. How dominant Grandview was. And I think as much as anything, the push that the offensive line made, especially in the first half, really, I have not seen or watched a Kaiser team seem to be on its heels backing up, and yet Grandview down the field, pushing. The offensive line did such a fantastic job, and they opened the way for Jackson Waring, the NAIA Player of the Year for 2024, to have some really big runs. I mean, Waring averaged 9.7 yards per carry. Every time he took off with the ball was almost a given first down. And you have to give a lot of credit to what the offensive line did. The receivers, by the way, once he would take off, there was blocking downfield. Everyone did their part in making a way for the running game for Grandview, and it proved to be a historic running game in all of that. Jackson Waring on the day, we'll start with the team that won, 11 for 18 passing, and we had some prop bets, so let's throw those out there really quickly. One of our prop bets was, would Jackson Waring throw the ball more or less than 24 times? And 6 games he'd thrown it for 25 plus, 7 games he'd thrown it for 24 or less. They won all their games coming into that one, so there were 13 prior. But if he doesn't have to throw the ball as much, if he can run the ball, if the team can run the ball, it would seem to bode well for Grandview. And I thought probably a safe number if we're concerned with his passes, get him somewhere between 20 and 24. He had 18. He threw for better than 50% on the day, 132 yards passing, but 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. So that was a big deal. But the other number for Jackson Waring, after I throw this one up here really quickly from Scram, Kaiser was a run-first offense for 2 years, got him to the championship. They decided to become a passing offense. Scram, I agree with you. It was difficult. There were 2 things. One, I felt like it was difficult to get the run going anyway around because Grandview was just, again, such a dominant force on that line. The other thing was they became a passing offense in the second half of the game last week against Benedictine. And I think, you may take something away from that. And, are you going to go that direction again? So, but I totally see your point. And with players like, Jaden Meisinger, with Andrew Burnett, people like that who can run the ball, and, Marquise Burgess in years past. Yeah, it was a little bit different look in that game. And sometimes those adjustments, they work and sometimes they don't. And in this case for Kaiser, it really didn't. Jackson Waring, speaking of running the ball, 21 carries for 203 rushing yards. And hat tip, by the way, to Natalie Rigatuso, who is the sports information director at Grandview, for pointing out that is a Grandview record. And who would have thought that the quarterback now has the all-time rushing record for a single game for Grandview? Jackson Waring has that. Isaiah Toki, 3 catches for 45 yards, 2 of them, by the way, for touchdowns. And he was just wide open, streaking across the field, found a way to get past defenders and in for the score. Also, the John Argo had 9 tackles. He wound up being No, it was Jackson Filer, I believe, was the defensive player of the game. He had 8 tackles. Argo had 9 on the day. Fantastic effort for Kaiser. Shea Spencer, really decent numbers, threw less than 50%, which was, I think, also a key number too. He did not connect as much as he has over the course of this season. Less than 50% passing, 22 for 45, 277 yards passing, but could not connect in the red zone when they needed him to. So there was 1 passing touchdown. It was the only touchdown of the day for Kaiser. 1 interception too, and that interception was late. Kaiser was looking to maybe put some more points on the board near the end of the game. It was a pick very late in the ball game, so I don't really hold that one against him as much. Here is the point that Scram was making just a moment ago. Andrew Burnett, 11 carries for 85 yards. We had another prop bet going. Would it be how would Kaiser hold up? And would Burnett have at least 100 yards rushing? And we said, if he has more than 100 yards rushing, that bodes well for the Seahawks. He did not. 85 yards rushing. They gave it to him only 11 times. And so they decided to go a different direction with that. Still 7.7 yards per carry, but not the numbers, I think, individually that he would have liked to have had, which could have carried over to Kaiser on the whole. And then Rico Portia with 5 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown for Kaiser. So a big, big game. And let's get into this then. Let me see if I can pull this up over here for the final time in 2024. There we go. How about that? We have a lot of Grandview, and I think there's a lot to be said. I read the numbers to you. I'm going to read them to you again. I don't have official numbers for the offensive line for Grandview, but for Rico Portia, 5 catches, 102 yards receiving on the day. He did his part, did what was asked of him, and props to him for, at least from the stat perspective, not the outcome he wanted, props to him for a good day. The offensive line for Grandview, you cannot say enough about what that group did. And I was speaking with Coach Woodley this week, and I heard him say this also over on the Victory Sports Network earlier tonight, as he had a chance to visit with Jason Danley, that they got beat last year in the trenches, especially against College of Idaho. And he said, we don't want this to happen like this ever again. And they have not had it happen since then. The offensive line was just so impressive for Grandview. John Argo with 9 tackles on the night. Isaiah Toki, 3 catches again for 45 yards and those 2 touchdown catches. And Jackson Waring, all around fantastic day. The offensive MVP for the game. And again, those numbers read like this. If I can pull them back up here, 18 or 11 for 18 passing, 132 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 21 carries for a school record, 203 yards rushing. Fantastic day. This was just, I mean, it was a big deal. It really was a big deal. I don't think you can say enough about what Grandview did. Third consecutive trip to the national championship for Kaiser. Can they make it a fourth? We'll see who all comes back next year. I know it's going to be a big topic, and we're interested to see how they play that out. Props to the Kaiser Seahawks for a fantastic season. And Scram and Jana, thank you all for watching, as you all always do. And I'm grateful to see your names come up there in the comment section too. Props to Grandview. And it was a matchup of the top 2 teams in the country, both teams undefeated. That was fantastic. And I know it said top 2 seeds. They were the top 2 ranked, not rated teams in the country. Seeds with a bracket that's, reshuffled from week to week. They're not really seeds. It's like, whose line is it anyway? Drew Carey used to come out at the start of Whose Line Is It Anyway and say, welcome to Whose Line Is It Anyway, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. That's right. The points don't matter, just like the comment section with anyone other than Brett Cooper. Well, it was the top 2 teams in the country, and it was a fantastic run for both those teams. Grandview comes away 14-0, and they're the national champions. Scram with some thoughts there too. Offensive and defensive line were the stars of the game. Absolutely, absolutely, Scram. You cannot say enough about that. You have to talk about Jackson Waring's numbers, but the offensive and defensive lines for Grandview just played their hearts out, and it's got to be etched into the trophy somewhere up there, in Des Moines, when you see this trophy that the offensive line, defensive line did so much to make this happen. I think that has to be a part of it. All right, really quickly, programming note then. Some programming notes for the rest of 2024. First off, we'll be live tomorrow night. We will, again, if my voice is able to work, we'll come on here live. We're talking about things other than college football now. And actually, there is going to be one college football note, because there's been some news that's come out in the last 48 hours that affects and can affect the NAIA. It affects the NCAA in a lot of ways, and football specifically. Will it have an effect on other sports as well? I want to see and talk about those things tomorrow night, plus some other sports, as Midwest Sports Net is not just NAIA football, although we have a lot of fun with NAIA football. We talk about small college sports and more throughout the Midwest and beyond. Kaiser folks, we talk about small college sports where you are. So just want to let you know that we just kept the name Midwest Sports Net because I'd had it for a while. You don't want to rebrand when you're finally starting to do something well. So we've had it for a while, but we go beyond the Midwest and all that. So be on tomorrow night if my voice is active and we can do it. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. I'm very thankful again for my Christmas tree here. I meant to have that in the show a little bit longer tonight, my Charlie Brown Christmas tree, in case you didn't know what that was. And props to that. We have a lot more in store for the next few months. We will be talking about NAIA football again, and we will start with our coaches interviews in the month of April, preparing for the 2025 season. The goal this year, man, we were close last year until the whole, thing during the summer. But the goal this year is to get all 98 NAIA football coaches right here on Midwest Sports Net. We'll see if we can make that happen. Plus, there's a lot more going on. So that is our programming note. Come back tomorrow, stop by, say hi, let us know from where you're watching then. Shout out to Jana, shout out to Scramble Eggs. Gotta love that name. Fantastic season, by the way, for Andrew Burnett. I've heard that kid's a beast. Just saying, that's what I've heard. So we'll talk about that. And Merry Christmas to all of you. And please, like Charlie Brown said all those years ago, Christmas gets to be too commercial. And I learned how to quote and memorize Luke 2:8-14 from watching Linus in this show. But don't forget the true meaning of Christmas. It really is the fact that Jesus is the reason for the season. So I encourage you, don't forget about that. Yeah, Scram, I wanted to give you an opportunity to get that in the chat one more time. Obviously a beast. I've heard. That's what I've heard anyway, that kid's a beast. Shout out to all of you guys. Thanks for watching tonight. I'm going to pray that the voice gets back. Also, I pray for you all, and I'm glad that you guys are all back safely where you belong and that everybody made it home. Have a great, great Sunday night. And let's see if I can close this out over here. We'll talk to you all later. God bless you.